There we go.
You don't
Steer clear.
Right, fair enough.
Is there any other teams with obvious Hull FC links?
You see, last year Joshua started supporting Parramatta a little bit just because of Manu Mao. He wanted to watch Manu Mao play.
Parramatta are quite well tipped this year. Manly and Parramatta are the two teams that everyone's saying have got a soft draw out of the way the fixtures have been drawn up. So they will be two teams that are likely to do quite well this year off the back of that, potentially. So Parramatta might be a good shout. Plus, it's like, you wear black and white, they wear yellow and blue, so you get to have a colourful kit to add to your second team.
Yeah.
Although you could go Penrith if you want vaguely similar colours.
See, Shane Richardson came from Penrith, or went to Penrith. I don't know how are you meant to choose a team? Like, you're just born a team, aren't you?
I've never chosen an NRL team. I think we were talking a bit about this during our quiz, weren't we, on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Because I've always just kind of followed around where the more British players were rather than anything else. So obviously Canberra is the team I'd be going for right now because they've got loads of Wigan players, and British players. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds like Parramatta.
I don't tend to pick an individual team. I tend to pick a team per game.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go with that to start with, and then maybe see if I can find a team that I like.
Well, that's what I did with American football. Actually, I kind of rooted for a team each game, and then it was the team that, watching that game, sort of already picking them before the game, made me actually care about the outcome, sort of thing. That I ended up going
and then you
took me
end
on
up
the journey with them.
Yeah.
It's Jesus.
I don't know. Watch Parramatta this week, and then see if you want to support them. I think is the way to go in your house this week. Right, that's match reviews done. We're now going to move on to talking about our unsung heroes.
Okay, so this week we are talking about your unsung heroes, your underrated players, your players who you'd forgotten were part of that team that were really good, that kind of thing. And in a slight change to the usual schedule, we're going to go through our own choices first before we hear about what your picks have been. So I'm going to start with Sarah. What are your choices?
So, looking at it, actually, I've got 3 second rowers that I've chosen, but I'll probably talk and then I'll, think of somebody else. And I think they're all players, actually, that I mentioned when we were doing second rowers.
I had the same sort of, I had to fight against myself from only having second rowers, Sarah, so I'm in the same path.
That's weird, isn't it? Yeah. How does that happen?
It's because second rowers do a bit of everything, I think.
Yeah, probably.
I think it is the way they are, isn't it? Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, take it away. Sorry.
Yeah, so I've got Tony Grimaldi and Adam Mayer, who are the sort of early 2000s. They both got through so much work, but didn't ever really get the recognition. Certainly not till the back end of their careers. But if you actually watched the amount of work that they both got through, it was phenomenal. They were really.
I think I might carried Adam Mayer off the pitch once.
And that didn't jeopardise his playing career, so that's good. They both got through a lot of work. They both, I think pretty much every week they were 80-minute players. And Grimaldi did end up with a neck injury towards the back end, but neither of them were particularly injury prone as well, which I think...
Did Tim take him off and drop him?
I bet he did. I bet he tripped him up.
I never dropped anyone. And it was...
It was
other than that player in when you were the ref.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so they were just people that, sort of got on with what you wanted them to do, but in sort of an unspectacular way.
Yeah.
And then the other one is from a few years later, although not that many years later, Shane McMenemy, who I think we signed from Halifax, but he's one of those players that played at quite a lot of clubs, and he managed to dislocate his elbow in his first match. He signed for us like the back end of, it must have been 2004, back end of the season, and dislocated his elbow in his first match, thereby ruling him out of the rest of the season. But we signed him again for the next season. And when you think, why have we done that? But actually, again, he was such a key player and clicked very well with Paul Cook. And obviously 2005, we went on to have all that success in the Challenge Cup. And that link-up play with Cook was really crucial in that. So they're the three that I've picked out.
I think they definitely fit that bill that we'd be looking for as Unsung Heroes. McMenemy is the one I remember the most of those guys, and like you say, he kind of seemed to be a player who always played with an injury, and kind of, so you never really saw him do something magnificent, but he always was doing something that one of his teammates needed him to do. Yeah,
and I think it's the way he was part of the team as well that, is key with all three of them. They weren't, I think that the reason that they were unsung heroes and not so noticed is because they were turtle team players.
Yeah.
So, that is other people get the credit for maybe their hard work.
Yeah, that's a quality of the unsung hero, definitely, isn't it? Kind of taking that tackle that the halfback doesn't get into position for, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, don't know who wants to go next.
Let's go for Mark's next.
Well, I've put them into sort of two broad categories in the end because I didn't just want to do second rowers. So my two sort of categories of unsung heroes is there's the men that do the dirty work for the fancier players, and I think that's where Sarah was definitely coming from with her guys, and then there's the utility men. So in that first category, I can't do Liam Farrell, one because he's got way too much skill and ability to be classed as just a player who's doing the work for other fancier players, and two, he's got a song. But there's two players that always stick in my mind, really, and from the more recent era, it's Harrison Hansen from sort of the Maguire, Wayne sides of the early teens, early 20-teens. Even though he's around for like 5 years before those sides as well, he just seemed to work tirelessly for me. He was the ultimate kind. That thing that Sarah was talking about it. Like always appear kind of to back up what the other guy inside him, support the guy inside him, where he needed to. He did other people's defending for them. I always thought with Harrison Hansen, and he got some serious injuries along the way. That he has got like a ridiculous injury that he got on his wrist, but he played through it just to play and help his teammates and that sort of stuff. He was that kind of bloke, Harrison Hansen for Wigan. Obviously, he's still playing now for Toulouse in the Championship. And probably the ultimate Wigan get the job done forward for me is Mick Cassidy. I think he's a man who could do a job everywhere in the pack, but was part of some very, very successful sides from the 94-95 team that won everything and started, ended the season before started that season sort of thing, as it were, winning against Brisbane in the World Club Challenge as well. Then went through to the first grand final winning side of 98, right the way through to the Challenge Cup side of 2002. But so often, especially in those teams of the 90s, he was playing from the bench for Wigan, and whenever he got a chance to play internationally for Great Britain, it was always from the bench. He was kind of your guy who'd go in and and do whatever job he was asked to do, but he would always do it well, I always thought, Mick Cassidy. So whenever I think Unsung Heroes, Mick Cassidy is the first name that springs to mind. Then in category 2, I've gone for 2 relatively recent players, Ian Thornley and Darryl Goulding, because they did a job equally as well at wing or as centre. They were never the greatest players, kind of what we were talking about with Rankin before in a way as well. But they did play really big and very consistent parts in some of those sides between 2010 and 2017, where Wigan won 6 trophies in 4 seasons, and those guys were mainstays in each of them was mainstays in a couple of those years. In 2010, Goulding had to come in on the wing when we were kind of struggling for wingers and scored a try a game at that season, and then went on to be a great centre. And Thornley played pretty much every game of the 2013 double season in the centres as well, replacing George Carman, who was another fantastic player. So those 4 guys, and then the 5th guy is a current player who crosses both those categories, and it's Willie Isa. I don't think I've ever seen him have maybe once I've seen him have an 8 out of 10 or more game, but also I've very rarely seen him have a 5 or 6 out of 10 or less game, and he can play pretty much anywhere other than halfback. I think is the ultimate squad player that you need in a salary cap sport. And he does the dirty stuff and is a utility man, so I kind of think I had to mention him as well.
He's dirty though, isn't he?
You need a bit of that. There's
a bit of that, and then there's Willie Isa levels.
Still my favourite financial product.
That's really good. I have to give Mark credit for getting Liam Farrell into a conversation about Unsung Heroes. I mean, I don't know how he's bloody done that. But anyway.
I did have a few from other sides, but I think I'll let you guys...
But once Liam Farrell's playing at St Helens next year, he might be underrated there.
Sarah, stop it.
Let's move on quickly and hear what Tim's got to say.
So yeah, I've gone a bit like Mark with the 2 categories. Firstly, with the sort of backs who can cover everything but never quite find their proper position or get the love for the level that they deserve. So I'll start off with David Hodgson. Started off here because I feel his accomplishments for KR were never as rewarded as perhaps other players were more loved for doing the same, if not less work.
He was close to my list actually, as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you look back and you think, oh yeah, he did it actually in hindsight, as well as that try, which will always be special. There were lots of other things. He did a lot of work and was just he was always there, always putting his hand up to take up an early carry. And always one that would chase back even when there was no hope of, a break would be on. He'd always be sprinting after, and he'd have no hope of catching it sometimes, but he'd still be putting the effort in. The other one I've gone for is Craig Hall.
He can't be unsung if you make up new songs about him every day because you love him that much, though, Tim.
Says the man who put Liam Farrell in the conversation.
Yeah, I put him in to point out that I can't.
You see, Craig Hall, he's like a poor man's Liam Farrell, isn't he?
How come?
He's just not as good. Lots of people talk about.
I thought there was something profound coming then, but no, maybe not.
Lots of people talk about Craig Hall as and he's
Tim
all
does,
right.
Yeah,
no, but he does. He gets lots of comments, but he's a decent enough goal kicker. But you in a decent team, you wouldn't want him playing for you, would you? Really?
Well, Tim
he's
would.
a very beautiful man, and he can cut. He's versatile.
He's
beautiful and versatile.
Yeah.
And the second category are just the kind of the workhorses, the dogs who just get through the work but don't really get the credit that they deserve for it. One that popped into my head was Scott Wheeldon, someone who was always there or thereabouts, but never slow, but always a solid bench forward, someone who's going to come up, take on some work, get through it. but not someone you look back and you think, wow, he really played 70 odd games. I couldn't name half of them, but so that is sort of surprised me. And another one who sort of crossed KR and